Hi guys, it's Aaron from modernintel.ca. Today we're going to show you how to take apart a Milsig model magazine. This teardown can also apply to most RAP4 magazines. Some of them may be slightly different, but most of the stuff is pretty much the same. Okay, what you're going to need to take apart this is a Phillips screwdriver. You can use the same screwdriver that came with the parts kit in your Milsig set. I like to use a different one. It gives you a bigger handle. Second, you're going to want a really thin screwdriver, hopefully with a long actual part on the end here. You don't really need it for undoing anything. It's just helpful when it comes down to it. I'll show you what it's used for later on. What you're going to want to start with first is to take out these first two screws. These are the only two screws on the magazine here. So let's go ahead and take these out. These two screws are both the same sizes, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. You just put them aside, don't worry about it. And there's no particular order they really need to go into, although I like to undo and put in the top screw first because that seems to be where all the mechanics of the magazine are. After you've got the two screws on the top off, then the whole piece of the mag should come apart. It's a clamshell design, so it should come right apart. If it doesn't, sometimes you gotta play with the collar a little bit, give it a little twist back and forth, and everything will come apart. From here, what you're gonna wanna do is take out the collar. All you have to do is pull it out, and like on the review, if you get shot here or if a ball breaks, you're gonna want to clean this up because the ball detents, they don't depress, so you're gonna wanna run it under hot tap and just let it air dry. Let's put this aside for now. Second, you're going to want to clean this. Clean everything. If you see any paint, just clean it up. Rinse it in a hot tap again and clean it all up. Make sure there's nothing, no debris in it. And then clean this. Make sure that everything's all unwound. Make sure there's no winding on the winder here. And just, again, hot water and clean it all up. After you're done that, what you're going to want to do is put everything back together. Grab the collar and put it on the opposite side of the shell of the mag. You don't want to put it on the side with the winder, you want to put it on the other side. So put it down, give it a little pressure, and you'll notice that it locks in. I can move it around without having any problems. Next, what you're going to want to do is put the other side of the plunger into the collar. And then, lastly, to close this up, I want to show you one thing about this before we close it up, actually. If you look closely, you'll see this little guide here. This spring on the winder, you're going to want to pass through that later on, and that's what this is going to come in handy for. Okay? So again, this hole with this line. Okay? So let's go ahead and close this up. Make sure this spring is behind this little piece of plastic here. Sometimes it'll pop forward, but you don't usually have to worry about it until you close everything up. So let's go ahead and close this up. Make sure that the grooves on this side of the shell are lined up with the collar as well. And just go ahead and close it up to the best of your abilities. And then pass the rest of the spring into the casing. Once it's mostly closed, hold this side with the collar in your hands and you'll have this little gap in between that you can access the spring. Grab your little thin screwdriver and pass it into this groove. And just play around the spring until you can get it to sit on that little plastic bar that I showed you. And then the little slot in the plastic that I showed you, you're going to want to pass that string into. Once you've got the string on the right side and the spring on the right side, you just give it a little pressure and it will snap closed. Once it's snapped closed, all you have to do is go ahead and put the screws back in. Again, I like to put back in the top screw first. And then the bottom screw. After you're all done everything, what you're going to want to do for the last thing is test the winder. As long as everything winds up as long as the plunger keeps going through the tunnels in the mag, then you're good to go. I like to always give it one full wind just to make sure that the whole area is working correctly, and press down the depressor here and make sure it's all feeding correctly. If it doesn't work, if you didn't get that little guideline through that little hole in the plastic there, what'll happen is that you'll pull it maybe 3 or 4 times and then it'll stop. You can't pull it any forward. If it stops, don't keep trying to crank it. Take everything apart and redo it, and just take your time with it. It's a little frustrating the first time, but after that you should be good to go. And that's how you take apart your Milsig magazines. Thanks a lot, guys.